welcome to the very first episode of Rainbow History Class, the show where we teach you the queer and trans history that you definitely didn't get in school. I am one half of your hosting team. My name is Rudy Jean Rick and I am the class clown.
And my name is Hannah. I am the other half of Rainbow History Class and I'm super excited about this podcast.
I am kind of freaking out because I feel like this has been in the works for like over a year now.
I think even longer than that. I am telling you that I do not dive into the world of podcasts lightly.
You've been like, I think, tainted by your radio past.
Yeah, I do have a radio past. My biggest fear, apart from medieval history, is being seen as like two people that just reckoned their chat was so good that other people would want to hear it and then they get a podcast. Yeah, the idea of like being two crypto bros with a podcast terrifies me. Or maybe it arouses me.
That's kind of a scary thought.
I'll mull on that. But this is not that. Crucially, this is not that. We're hoping it's much better because we've been working on it. We've been sitting on it. Yeah. I've been sitting on this material for a long time.
Is that what comedians say? Do we say that now that we're comedians?
I think so. And also, okay, because the story that I have selected for our first episode was one that like I was going to write for one of our like TikTok videos, you know. If you've been following along online, you will know what they are. But there's just too much good stuff in it to cut it off at about a minute.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I feel like I've really been cock-blocked by short form content for a long time now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Why are you apologizing? It's not your fault. It's just the way it is. I think it's one of those things, yeah, and especially it's hard. I think we get a lot of comments in our videos that are like really short. People are often like, what about this and what about that? And like, you didn't explain that and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, now is the time. Try and rip us away because you get basically like an hour every single week of us unpacking and going completely wild in these topics.
And the funny thing is, Rue, is that of all of the topics we have ever told, you know, from the ancient Greeks, ancient Rome, ancient anywhere, to be honest, all throughout history and time, I have managed to write them into 1 minute episodes, except for this one because it's just got so many legs. It's like a centipede. It's got that many legs.
No, that's yucky.
Yeah, this is a meaty topic and you are going to find it so funny.
Okay.
When I tell you what it is. So I want to talk about t.A.T.u. No, I'm not mispronouncing tattoos. I'm talking about t.A.T.u, the Russian pop duo from the mid-2000s. When I tell you there's just so much that goes into this story that we can learn from right now. Absolutely. First of all, do you remember t.A.T.u?
No, I feel like they either like didn't come across my radar or I just was maybe a little bit too young. I feel like in a way the Veronicas are like modern day t.A.T.u, but like modern in like, by modern I don't mean modern I mean Australian. I feel like maybe that's a preemptive. Maybe I'm going to be eating my words.
No, I think that I'm shocked because you're so right. I think the Veronicas are to the 2010s and 2020s what t.A.T.u was to the thousands.
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with that comparison. So t.A.T.u, I'm going to tell you about the name. Okay. All right. So this is t.A.T.u. It's spelled little t dot big A dot, capital A dot capital T dot little U, right?
What is this, a pre-filled password?
Yeah, it is. It's very like Google generated password.
Okay, it's very slay of them.
Yeah, so t.A.T.u, I'm going to tell you what the name is because, look, it is a kind of anglicized version of a Russian phrase. Now, I don't know. I'll see if we cut this out later depending on how my pronunciation goes.
No, the pronunciations are staying in.
любит t.A.T.u, which means this girl loves that girl.
Ooh.
And the reason that they have shortened it is because it sounds a little bit like the English word tattoo, which obviously is edgy in itself.
Yeah. So there's like, they're really trying to go, how much aesthetic can we really cramp into the name?
And like, okay, you are so right, like leveraging off this, because aesthetics were everything with this band. And I want to get to them because I want to show you a film clip. So you basically are not, apart from the fact that we walked on for every single one of our live shows to this song, you told me last week only that you didn't understand its cultural significance, which is wild, because why would you just let me suggest a walk-on track that you'd never heard?
Okay, so you had said, now the preface to this is you had said, this song is so gay. And I've gone, okay, I believe you. And then when we were going through our pre-show like playlist and we were thinking of like, and we, you know, because we had no idea that like a walk-on song was a thing, right? Or like an announcement or whatever, like a preamble to the stand-up comedy was a thing. And so when that was being decided and we were looking through the playlist, it was either All the Things She Said or Content by Bo Burnham. And I just thought maybe your pick was going to be better and that mine was a little niche. So
yeah, okay. I actually think that this is perhaps more niche, but I'm going to play you a bit of this film clip because I want to pick up on aesthetics.
Okay.
But you'll know this song obviously because we walk onto it to our live show, but
Yes.
you might not know the film clip, and the film clip's kind of part of it. All right. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts. I'm just going to roll them out and you can pick what you want. Okay. Number one, color grading. What is this, Twilight?
We're going to talk about
Wait. I have more.
Okay, give me your other thoughts.
Okay, color grading, Twilight. Question, are they supposed to genuinely look 12 years old? Because they did, which was very concerning when you compare that against the level of sensual energy that was coming through. Number three, if that was a 7-minute cut, I think they would have started cage fighting because of the way that they were set up in there. Like, I don't know what this audience, they were like kind of behind this like caged like fence. Anyway, the rain and then the snow, was it snow or was it nuclear fallout? That's what I'm wondering because they're Russian, right?
They are Russian. Okay. That's correct.
And this was when? 1990? No, 2000s?
No. So this was in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So the song had two like release dates because it was released first in Russian. When it was released in English, it was 2002.
Mm-hmm.
I first heard it in 2003. So I was in year 7, which is our first year of high school for anyone American. And I was chronically bullied for being frigid, which turned out to be gay, but at the time,
okay,
a disinterest in boys was an issue. I first saw this film clip and I was absolutely taken with it.
I was bloody swept away with that one.
This was the era of LimeWire. I think I downloaded about 40 viruses onto my parents' computer trying to download this song and film clip and just like watching it in, I think the resolution was probably about like 2. So I was obsessed watching this, film clip for obvious reasons. I do want to just talk about the 2000s color grade. You picked it up and thought Twilight, and it's made me miss this color grade.
I see color grades like that. I'm like, it's not noir. It's similar to like that. I feel like it's in that genre. It's like a subgenre.
Yeah, I feel like we could call it 2000s noir.
It kind of is because it's like
scene kid noir.
It is because I mean, yeah, I wonder what that genre you could
Let's call it scene noir.
Scene noir. Sure, okay.
I think that's what it is because it was or emo noir. Like,
yeah, I feel
it was a bit of emo noir because it was actually something that was like on so many queer coded TV series and films throughout the thousands. You've obviously mentioned Twilight. There's so much queer coding in that, but also in like these kind of I guess there's a bit of an element of like Skins had a bit of that grade to it. And this other show that I used to love watching was this British show called Lip Service.
Yeah, I love Lip Service.
Yeah, that had a similar kind of emo noir like look to it. So it's kind of, there is that discussion online around like bisexual lighting.
Yes, with all like the Twitch streamers, like the LEDs in like purple and blue.
Yeah, I think like bisexual lighting is a whole other episode, but there's an element to this kind of color grade that reads queer, and part of it was just this era of like sort of teen angst being and like repressed queer emotion,
because it's not like a camp queer either. It's like it's not a Sapphic queer. It's like I don't know what it would kind of equate
it's
to.
Not Sapphic in the modern day, but I think it's definitely Sapphic in the thousands, which kind of had a lot of like I feel like Sapphic content now doesn't have the same amount of like shame around it. That
the brand, we've changed the branding.
Yeah, it's like now Sapphic, there's a lightness to it, but in the thousands, like Tegan and Sarah was the only like, apart from like Tracy Chapman or kind of older folk artists, the only kind of Sapphic representation in pop culture was Tegan and Sarah, and I guess these two, and that always had this kind of element of angst, which to be fair spoke to me because I was an angsty queer at that time. So there was also this like fascination in 2002 2003 around female bisexuality, where it really became kind of palatable for the mainstream. This was like the era of Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl, and also the like three-way kiss between Britney and Madonna and Christina.
Oh, yeah.
t.A.T.u for me might have been like Katy Perry for you in terms of era.
Like, what do you mean? As in like t.A.T.u, like Katy Perry was popping in the same way?
Yeah, like I Kissed a Girl probably hit when you were like similar age to me when t.A.T.u came out.
I think so, but then also like I wasn't super. I had like a complex against pop music until I was like 17. So I actually have I've had to retrospectively learn pop music culture.
It was such a thing to just hate pop music just in general because it was popular.
Yeah. So like I literally would refuse to like listen to the radio. I don't know, like
you just beelined for the alternative section at JB Hi-Fi.
Yeah, and Sanity back when Sanity was open. Yeah.
We are talking about Australian music retailers.
Look up Sanity if that's not a place you want to spend your Saturday afternoon.
I think Sanity's not Australian, but I think JB is.
JB Hi-Fi?
Yeah.
Don't ask us what it stands for. No one knows.
What we're talking about, right, is the rise of queer baiting. This was the first time, I guess.
But they just kissed in the video.
This idea of this fascination with female bisexuality, it's not a representation of like true bisexuality at all, because, well, neither of them were bisexual or lesbians.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we're going to get to that. So this is why it's like such a example of queer baiting.
Yeah.
Right. So t.A.T.u, both straight, though one of them moves away from that later in our timeline. So yeah, this was kind of like the first like fascination with queer baiting. I guess you could say, in the 70s, there might have been a bit of that happening with a lot of the kind of the male rock stars at the time, where we had, Bowie and Freddie Mercury, but they were queer. So, and obviously that was drawing people to them. So this was like a time when people were kind of manufacturing queerness.
Ew.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's the Britney, Madonna, Christina three-way kiss that everybody remembers, that Christina was cut out of in like the filming. She was actually there.
Oh my God.
So she took part in it too. And then Madonna, obviously, she is bisexual.
Yeah.
Brittany, as far as I know, is not. So this was like the same period of time where everyone was all of a sudden looking at, you know, bisexuality as like a brand new, like hot new trend or craze. This was kind of lesbian chic was in the paper. People were talking about like, she doesn't like just men or just women. She's a whole new something else. Like that was really the narrative. It's like, it was a really like, why not have both kind of like take on bisexuality, right? And so that's why we see queer baiting, because people were kind of using it to kind of get this edge. All right. But I want to go back to like why this story of this band is so full of legs.
Yeah. Why is it a prolific centipede on the queer landscape?
Prolific centipede. I feel like would make a good film. We are like, you know, early 2000s, but we need to go back to 1991, which is when the Soviet Union fell, right? Berlin Wall taken down. This Russian communist massive behemoth really crumbled. But it was kind of a positive thing for a lot of people in Russia. So what it meant was that the Soviet Union then returned Russia to the global economy. So up until like this point, it was a very gated economy.
Yeah, I mean, Russia had like a pretty wild 100 years, didn't they?
They did. And so this was the first time in the lives of most of the Russian people that they could then, I guess, participate in global culture. And globalization was like happening, you know, really rapidly. So this was exciting. And so there were these early Russian kind of economic reformers. They realized that in order to get Russia to transition to kind of a modern capitalist economy, they needed to expose Russia to international competition. Yeah. So basically they really needed to kind of like open up to, you know, international trade, you know, bring in, you know, competition, because that's obviously not a factor of like a communist economy.
Yeah.
So these like Russian economic reformers were really like pushing Russia to participate in the global economy. For the average middle-class Russians, this was like exciting because it meant that they could buy foreign clothing brands, you know, designer fashion. They could get like modern electronics, which is something that they couldn't really get their hands on before. They could get different international food, like things like American snacks. And they could really just like participate in like global culture and conversations, which for them was like a whole new world was opened up to them, because, you know, they could like look up and out and see what was happening in the world. And, you know, the internet was, you know, rising, you know, throughout this decade as well. So it was really kind of time of massive change in Russia.
Yeah.
One of the biggest industries that, you know, the Russian companies kind of looked at taking to participate in like a global economy was pop music.
No, that's actually quite a nice choice. Like,
what would you choose?
They could have gone with anything. I feel like if I was gonna get myself out onto the global stage for the first time, I would, in terms of industries, I would probably go. Knowing what I know now, I'd go for gaming, but like as in like, you know, I think gaming.
Like that's a smart choice.
Yeah, I think
what's
gaming,
a fun choice?
Gaming's fun. Well, you never played a game. You telling me you never played a game, Anna?
Yeah, Rudy, I've played a game.
What's a fun choice? Do you want me to pick a fun choice?
No, you just said knowing what I know now, I'd pick gaming. So I just assumed that.
Well, it's you
had another one that you were going to share.
Well, I think when I said that, I sort of just meant I've become educated on the games industry in the last 5 years. Me 5 years ago would have probably chosen food. But I realize now that that's an uneducated choice and I would probably fail on the global stage. So I rescind that one.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And there's an example of that. I mean, I think, Tetris as a game was very tied up in the Russian globalization.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so gaming isn't far off, but pop music was one of these industries that Russia really focused on manufacturing. So there's this music producer. His name is Ivan Shapovalov.
Okay.
I think I said it right. Ivan Shapovalov.
For a second, I thought you were going to say Ivan Shapovalov.
Yeah,
and I was really concerned for you.
My favorite brand. Okay, so this guy Ivan, he wanted to make a girl band.
Don't we all?
Yeah, he wants to make bank of this new global economy, and so he is going to make a girl band. So he held auditions, right? Hundreds of like teenage girls came and I don't know, Australian Idoled their way into Ivan's studio. The two girls, they didn't know the other was auditioning, but they did know each other because Yulia, so one of the members of t.A.T.u, Yulia Volkova and Lena Katina, they did know each other because they had been members of like a children's group.
Oh, they were like child stars.
They had been members of a children's group. They weren't children at the time.
Oh, it's like an orphan situation.
No.
You know the movie?
No.
Oh, well, in the movie, she's like 30, but she poses like...
No, they're not pretending to be kids. I think it's like a children's entertainment group.
I was really going down a conspiracy hole there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, like High Five or The Wiggles is something how I imagine.
They were children entertainers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The audience was children.
They entertained
But they
children.
were also young, but...
They were young children's entertainers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Editing Rudy here. I'm just letting you know that I was right, and they were children who were entertainers. Hannah fact-checked after we recorded the episode because something wasn't sitting right with her, and it was because I was correct the whole time. So there you go, cheeky little fact-check in the edit. I was, in fact, correct.
Anyway, so Yulia and Lena were chosen by Ivan to be this pop group. He was pretty cluey in that he knew that, you know, a pop band needed a brand. Like obviously we'd had like the Spice Girls and their brand was Girl Power. So bands were very kind of branded after the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And this, you know, probably One Direction would have been the last kind of one of the manufactured supergroups with a brand.
I don't know. You ever heard of a little band called BTS?
True.
Yeah. See,
all right,
get your Western lens off.
Yeah, I am thinking far too Western.
What about Blackpink?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like it's still happening in like K-pop, J-pop. Anyway, so Ivan's looking for he's looking for a brand. He's recently seen a Swedish film called Show Me Love, which has a similar color grade to the one we've been talking about. Have you seen Show Me Love?
No, I'll Google it now.
Show Me Love was like a coming of age film that was very formative for me. It's Swedish. Robin is like the Robin song Show Me Love features in it. They talk about Robin a lot.
Wow.
It's about kind of a high school girl who's a lesbian and she ends up having an interaction with the most popular girl who was not very nice to her at the start. But definitely go watch it. It's a really, really nice film. Okay. But because of this, he decided on lesbianism as the edge off the back of this film.
That's not fucking creepy at all.
Yeah. And in Russia, this was like a really interesting period, okay, because homosexuality had just been decriminalized with the fall of the Soviet Union, okay? But Putin hadn't kind of ascended to where he is now. And so Putin's anti-homosexuality laws hadn't been introduced yet. So this was like a period of time where in Russian history, you know, or Russian modern history, it was probably like maybe one of the better times to be gay. Mm-hmm. Soviet Union, it was illegal. Later, with Putin's power and the situation now, it is also not legal. So really in the early 2000s, this was like probably the best time to be queer in Russia.
Okay.
Apart from like a very long time ago. So that's why he got away with it.
Yeah, interesting.
And that is why like it was all couched in this idea of like bisexuality is like this new global trend and Russia is going to contribute to this global economy with this pop group who are like reflective of, global relationships.
Okay, cool.
So they're edgy.
So they tried to be a mirror to like global
Yeah.
stage. Yeah.
Yeah. And like obviously, again, he's smart because he's got this girl loves that girl in the name. Sounds like T.A.T.u. But the funny thing is how I told you about the ridiculous stylization of it?
Yes.
They had to do that because there was already an Australian band. I know, Australia has a part in this called t.A.T.u, T.A.T.u. I have no knowledge about this Australian band called t.A.T.u. So anyway, that's why they had to style it because Australia just...
Also,
put a
why
spanner
not?
in.
I mean, look, you've got to give it a bit of a zhuzh.
Yeah, I mean, like this was like, if you're on MSN, like in that era, you were doing a lot of like fun capitalization aesthetic strategies.
Everyone needs a point of difference, and I've always said that.
Well, I think like capitalism's always said that too. So we're exactly on theme.
Exactly. They've got a good brand ethos.
Capitalism has a great brand ethos.
Yeah.
So in 2002, the band released their first album in Russian, and it was a hit. It was so much of a hit that they rewrote and re-recorded it in English.
Okay.
And the lead single was All the Things She Said, that song that we just played. And this is just like a funny fact. The songwriter who wrote it had the idea for the song in a dream while he fell asleep at the dentist, which is kind of weird because I would never fall asleep at the dentist.
I have fallen asleep at the dentist before. I'm just not scared of that.
A lot of drilling for me to fall asleep.
You need a lot of
No. Yeah, I need more drilling than what happens at the dentist to fall asleep. Anyway, so this album was called, wait for it, you're going to love this, 200 kilometers per hour in the wrong lane.
Stop, that is so good.
Yeah.
That is literally, I've been making a list of like great like phrases for emo bands and like pop punk bands, and that's like a record shattering
it's
Billboard's
perfection.
#1. Yes.
And it was so bang on because at the time, right, Supre.
Yes.
So the iconic Australian clothing store of the 2000s, known for its graphic tees.
And the little headbands that really cut off a lot of circulation to the skull.
The graphic tees of the early 2000s that I remember was one that just said Barbie is a slut. And there was another one that had like a condom behind a window, like a plastic window that said break in case of emergency. And we were all 12 or like 11 walking around with this kind of stuff.
Bring it back.
I would love to see Supre do it now. Anyway, I had this shirt that's very in this vein because it said on it, it was like camo and this distressed writing that said, too fast to live, too young to die. And I was like 11.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Too fast to live, too young to die. All right. Sure. I'll take that one on board. Thanks for the criticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? I love that.
Anyway, so the band, so T.A.T.u, right, they caused like a lot of outrage, as you'd expect. Like, Ivan's plan worked. Everyone was shocked by this very edgy, like, lesbian girl band with this film clip, and they're kind of making out behind some kind of wire fence. There's the Chernobyl-like rain.
Yeah.
It was really rattling to a lot of
I can imagine.
Well-mannered people around the world. Weirdly, the band was a big hit in Australia. Of all the markets, like it's like, how we love Pink more than any other country.
Pink, get down.
Get down. We love Pink more than any other country. We loved T.A.T.u more than any other country except Japan.
Oh, well, see, this is what I'm this is the thing. I feel like when I feel like I can speak to this, but like when it comes to like alternative music, rock music, like pop punky, grungy stuff that's still like mainstream enough to get like the Susans and Sharons going on a Friday night, just historically really enjoy that music. I'm yet to figure out why.
Well, this one is because of that, but also because of the lesbian schoolgirl trope, which
What, Australia loves that?
no, Japan loves that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So in Japan, there's gay until graduation is like a very widespread, accepted, fetishized trope within a lot of like film, art, manga.
Yeah.
And so that's why they loved t.A.T.u in Japan. So that was really like where the band kind of found their audience in Australia and Japan. Once they did all the things she said, they came up with another song called Not Gonna Get Us. They just sort of stopped hitting after a while. Japan still loved them, but everybody else, you know, the culture moved on. They released a whole bunch of other albums, all with the same kind of dangerous driving theme. Their next one was Dangerous and Moving. Which doesn't have the same ring to it as 200 kilometers an hour in the wrong lane.
Dangerous and moving. What, are you like a rogue Roomba? Or?
Rogue Roomba. Their next one was called Waste Management.
Wait, just waste management?
Waste
That's
Management.
Hot.
Yeah, that was 2009.
I love that.
The band also represented Russia at Eurovision, which was Ivan's plan all along. And I'm talking about like Ivan did well with this. He was very like not a great person
No.
to the girls.
I can imagine.
But even though all of this happened in the 2000s, the culture had moved on, and in 2011, the band separated. Now, this is where it gets juicy. So the band always acknowledged the lesbian shtick was like all marketing and all a marketing ploy. They never, ever were shy about the fact that they were doing it for brand and like for views, I guess. Yulia Volkova is bisexual. So one of them came out later as bisexual, but in 2014, she said that she's okay with lesbians, but would condemn her son if he were gay, saying, and this is a quote, I want to like specifically say this is a quote, not my words, "A man has no right to be a fag."
Whoa!
I know. So she said she's bisexual, but she's only okay with lesbian. So her, you know, her kind of sexuality and identity is kind of an interesting topic. But she also said, I believe that being gay is still better than murderers, thieves, or drug addicts. If you choose out of all of this, being gay is a little better than the rest.
Whoa, so okay, there's a lot to unpack with that.
Yeah. So she reckons that like it's murderers, drug addicts, thieves, gay people.
And then lesbians on top of that.
Well, lesbians are, above
at the pinnacle
gay
of
people. Yeah. By the sounds of it, not only are the band not lesbians, they're also homophobic. But Lena, on the other hand, the other one, she has grown in a direction that I think is a little better.
Okay.
So she has come out like in recent years and preached acceptance. She has said, and here's a quote, "God is teaching us to live in love, to be tolerant and not to judge other people. And I do so. Love is love and it is a wonderful feeling. I think everybody should be free to love who they love and be with who they want to spend their life with. XOXO. That was posted to her Facebook page.
Oh, I love that.
You can find this on Facebook if you feel like going to have a look. After all of this, they have parted ways, not on great terms. There have been they have kind of crossed paths again for like particular performances or where they've had to, but they're not on good terms, and they're not on good terms with Ivan either. So Ivan Shapovalov and both the girls had many, many disputes over the years, and he was allegedly, which is quite unsurprising, like controlling and very abusive to these two. Still, they were teenagers. They're still young girls who were kind of put into a very manufactured situation for like a global audience, and they didn't have, like a lot of autonomy in that situation.
No.
So I always look at like, Yulia's comments, if I'm being empathetic, I'm also like that was a very strange construct for both the girls, and it sort of came out of a really like, I guess, homophobic kind of environment, just pop music in general, and then kind of like the oddly manufactured way that like Russia was using them for capitalist ends. So I feel for both of them. But yeah, that's where we're at. That is the history of t.A.T.u, and it's so great because that's what I mean. These are the legs. It's got an excellent predominantly color graded film clip. We've come up with like emo noir as a new aesthetic. It ties into like the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And like a very, very like sort of small window of time in Russian history where being gay was kind of fetishized, but also not illegal. And yeah, these just two interesting girls who were branded as lesbians who loved dangerous driving.
Yeah, like listen, I can see why it popped off, but like I can also see that it was a probably really bad experience for them.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bad experience for everyone except Japan
Yeah, I guess so.
and Australia in the early 2000s.
God, they really made waves. Thank you for sharing that.
You are absolutely fine. That's our first step.
Actually, I do have an announcement, Hannah.
Yes.
We are actually launching a Patreon. So you can go and check us out over there. And if you'd like to contribute to just keeping us doing what we're doing at Rainbow History Class, you can go over there and then you get to reap the benefits of things like extra episodes, exclusive content, vlogs, pre-sale links for live shows and things like that. So if you're interested, go check out our Patreon. And of course, if you have somehow stumbled across this podcast without knowing anything about Hannah and I, you can go over and basically type Rainbow History Class into your preferred social media platform and find us there.
Yeah, you'll be able to find us individually through Rainbow History Class on socials. And if I can leave with one parting phrase for you to take throughout your day or evening, wherever you're going to right now, is that not everything is gay, but there is gay in everything.